Share it, people. I mean, get it on the socials.
Are we set, Joe? Hit it.
Good evening and welcome to the After Hours Show. It's the 275th office hours slash after hours. It's the third season and eighth episode of the After Hours Show. I am Joe in Norway and I'll be your cook this evening. I'm joined by Ann Lee, a retired college professor and a community member at the Daily Kos. They're a member of the National Council of Independent Scholars and is a contributor to the book, The Political Economy of Art, Making the Nation of Culture. Evening, Ann.
Hey, Joe, what's for supper?
Oh, well, one of the kind of repeated, repetitious, always ever present features of our trip over the past year to many different countries were baked goods, breads, and stuff.
Okay.
Uh, and after nearly a year away, I came home and my sourdough in the freezer maintained its existence and it's alive. And I've been unhappily getting back to baking, as unfortunately it is not one of my, let's just say, favorite pastimes or skills in life. But I figure after 275 of these vegetarian meals and there's only so many vegetables you can cut. At some point, I'm gonna have to start start making
Eat,
shit.
eat
Oh
some
Okay.
Lord!
flesh. We
So
want flesh. We.
I'm afraid we're an educational program here. We're just trying to make it simple and straightforward for people. You can make things with just vegetable batter. So, anyways, I thought I'd start in the first place we visited Turkey, and they make a village bread, oven bread, stone oven bread called bazlama, which is essentially just a flatbread pita that's made on in a traditionally a stacked stone oven or on a griddle out on over a fire. So I've not got the stone oven. I do have a griddle. I do have an outside fire, uh, although it's propane. Uh, what I'm going to attempt to do is quickly make a sourdough bazlama and break one of our rules This is also one of the reasons why I don't do any baking on the show, is that it takes too much time, aside from the measurements and the exactitude. Uh, and I don't like to pre-prepare things, but I'm going to break the rule and have, oh Lord, we've got pre-made dough here all ready to bake.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is show the technique to do just a super simple bread. We'll get it started, and then we'll losing my English. Del up. Split up the pieces, get them all prepared to roll out, and then we'll go outside and see what we can do to make them round, fluffy, not burnt, and resembling traditional pita. So after they get off the griddle, I'll brush them with olive oil and chopped parsley. That'll be the extent of it. So that's what's on the agenda for the evening.
Looking forward to it.
Cool.
Is that cilantro?
That is not cilantro. Well, that is parsley, broad,
No, no,
flat leaf parsley.
No, it's coriander.
No, that is not coriander. It's not coriander either. It's not cilantro. Persilla. Norwegian. Okay, let's go. Oh, I may interrupt you several times just to.
Fine. No problem. No problemo. All right. Wonderful secrets this week. It's been a very, very busy week. The last couple of days, mainstream media has leaped upon the issue of, and the questions we ask, of course, is why wasn't this done before? That is relative to Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with Donald Trump. So that's been the last 24 hours.
Are you still talking about this creep?
Well, I mean, the guy killed himself or was killed, however you want to indulge the conspiracy theory. You know, now we know that it's there's a 3-minute gap of some kind. Probably not enough time to hang him or subdue him and hang him. So I think that's the suicide thing is, I think, probably pretty stable in terms of that conspiracy theory. But the other thing is
first interruption. I know baking is all exact and everything. We're more or less doing it exact. So it's 1 1/4 cup, whatever your cup is, measure 1 1 1/4 measures of water to 3 measures of flour, and then 100 grams of starter. There we go. Okay. Sorry.
All right.
Oh, you're
no. So
one more interruption. Sorry. Hold on.
Carry on.
Oh, here we go. Wait. We have to test our starter. A way to test if your starter is perfect is when you put it in water, that it's floating. So if it's floating like this, could float a little bit better. I need to feed it a little. When your starter is floating in the water, then that's perfect.
All right.
All yours.
Oxygen. Okay. We've
Exact
learned all
100 gram measure. Sorry. Okay. Now,
go ahead.
Just 100 grams. Three measures of flour, 100 grams of starter, 1 1/4 measures of water. There we go. Okay.
All right. We've learned some new things that perhaps Trump has chronic venal or venous insufficiency. That's why his ankles have swollen up. And we've noticed little colorations on his hands and top of his back of his hand, stuff like that. So, and we've of course noticed that he drags one of his feet, the right foot, I think. So stuff's going on with poor Trump. Also, the discovery of the wonderful secret, or a piece of evidence that is not the whole thing. It's really the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of stuff there. I'm sure that there's a lot more information that has not been made available to the press, but I think it's a sort of open secret. There's a lot of stuff there. And of course, all the usual weaselly kind of things to get out of it. While Trump made up excuses about it and tried to disclaim it. And the crux of the whole matter is that his pursuing conspiracy theories was, of course, to hype his base. And some of his base actually think he speaks the truth. So whenever he introduced a conspiracy theory, that was really a hypothesis about something approaching nonsense. And but he would use that as a standard line or a standard idea. So the deep state / Jeff Epstein sort of set of theories or ideas or tropes have been there for a while. The MAGA base has believed it, and they're getting a little annoyed that it got disclaimed all of a sudden, and what made it worse, of course, was Pam Bondi saying a while back, a couple of months ago, it's on my desk. And so, the fact that she said that signified that there was something there. And Trump subsequently coming up with all kinds of excuses that it doesn't exist, et cetera, just forget about it. This is one instance, because of the reliance on Trump's lies, that the base got kind of annoyed, and there was resistance. They truly believe in the National Enquirer sense that there is stuff there, and that it is actually being covered up or suppressed, and by the guy who says he was, it was a key element, that he was going to make everything available. He was going to be, as he claims it, the most transparent administration of all time, which is typical Trump hyperbole. So the item in question, and as I said, only the tip of the iceberg, is a 50-year-old that is a gift for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, a leather-bound book that included birthday wishes from Jeff's friends. And since he was really sort of open secret that he was just all about the sex, lots of the information in this bound volume, which I'm not sure it was seized or whatever, but it is in the trove, and there is a trove of evidence that included a note, a birthday wish from Donald Trump, which consisted of a typed fictional dialogue between Epstein and Trump about a secret that they share. And it's sort of stupid, but it is open to all kinds of other kinds of interpretations, particularly those of the QAnon type. But I'm not even going to go there. I'm sure there's someone sitting counting letters and numbers and crap. But the reality is, of course, that it does make reference, or at least subtly, maybe not so subtly, to having sex with underage girls. That the kind of thing that they shared at the time. And it was, it's a little vulgar, but nothing. I mean, you could show it on TV. There is no actual image of it that has been shown, and therefore it's open to a lot of speculation. And some of us have been running around looking at the various things that Trump first off claimed that he couldn't draw or didn't draw. And then, of course, we all found his drawings. So it was just, it's been a week of absurdity, or at least the last couple of days. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal published it. The whole point of it was that it was Rupert Murdoch and Wall Street Journal standing by their evidence and making it a moderately big deal. Even though it's a really small little piece of information, it is, of course, sufficiently lascivious to connect Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, who obviously has a certain amount of power even in the grave. Now, the simultaneity of it, or the coincidence of it, is that Ghislaine Maxwell, who the friend of Jeffrey Epstein, who is essentially his procurer of young girls, is sitting in jail. She's the only woman, in fact, who is in jail on all of this stuff. And it's a really long, torturous story. But the fact is, she's serving a 20-year sentence. And
Young girls. I
uh,
was wondering, what do you get a 50-year-old man a 50-year-old pedophile who has everything?
indeed. And for those who don't know, Ghislaine is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who had I wouldn't call it suspicious necessarily, but anyway, he died at sea. Let's put it that way, and was a major publishing mogul. But anyway, all of that is part of the kind of tortured narrative. Ghislaine is making an appeal. So she's in jail while, the appeal is going on. And so there's a certain simultaneity of it. And of course, more interestingly, is the reactions to it, and which are, in typical Trumpian fashion, went overboard. That is, Pam Bondi, head of the Department of Justice, fired a prosecutor from the Southern District of New York, which is Manhattan. And lo and behold, who got fired? Well, is it Maureen, I think? I may have gotten that wrong. Comey, who is the daughter of Jim Comey, the former FBI director, who got fired by Trump. So, and she was abruptly fired. It doesn't seem, whether there was a cause or anything, and nothing has been explained about why she was removed from her job, even though she'd done a pretty bang-up job on P. Diddy and Epstein. So it was obvious that there's some connection between the revelation of the information, not that somebody leaked it there or that she leaked it, but obviously there was tit for tat going on, some sort of retribution by firing her, and particularly in a abrupt way. Probably the only way that Trump could get back at Comey, and in a very mob boss-like way. You punish the family in that same sense. So that went on for the last couple of days. The more important element, of course, is that the Wall Street Journal is standing by its evidence. And in this entire mess, we have not heard anything about the stuff that is held by the National Enquirer or a whole bunch of other things that are happening at the same time. So that has happened. Trump has spent a lot of time distracting from that. So his favorite little shibboleth is trying to fire the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, simply because he wants him to lower interest rates. Well, in the big picture, interest rates will get lowered at some point. It's just that Trump is making a bigger deal out of it because he wants to take attention away from the issues of these weird tariffs that he's been introducing and assuring other people that they're not going to happen or that they will happen. And the market is sort of understanding this as a kind of taco time where Trump always chickens out. And he's going to, backtrack on a variety of these tariffs. And I talked last week about the metals tariffs, and they'll come back up. And it's much more complicated. It's not simply gold, silver, and copper, but it goes down into other stuff, and we're going to see that in the coming weeks. The summer, that is June, July, and August, are often called the silly season, and so we are in the silly season, where Stephen Miller, in a interview, I can't remember with whom, one of the Fox people, it was one of the Gutfeld, I think. They're all pretty much the same. Was doing an interview with Stephen Miller, that is the deputy chief of staff to Donald Trump, who is essentially the brains, such as they are, behind the entire ICE immigrant roundup and all of the things that we've learned, about the craziness there, which we'll get to in a second. Point being, of course, that the facility has been opened or it's not so much has been opened, but has been assailed. The Everglades so-called
Alligator Alcatraz.
Alligator Auschwitz, which got flooded this last week. They managed to move people back in. It has mosquitoes and blah blah blah, and of course various at the beginning of the week or last weekend, various members of Congress tried to get in because they have the right to visit such federal facilities. Tried to get in and were sort of allowed, but a lot of things were changed, of course, to make sure that the complaints were not heard or whatever about plugged toilets, problems of delivering water, all kinds of other things in the
I
facility.
don't even want to ask about the bidet situation.
Oh, well, no bidets. I think it's what,
Oh,
3 toilets for 38 people?
Lordy.
Open
Oh,
toilets.
baking note. So knead the dough for about 10 minutes or so, and it should be sticky to the touch. So don't worry about that. And now we've got my cheating mode. Just cover that for about an hour, and you want it to double in size. And then you'll get something like this.
Yay!
And this is the point where I start to get nervous. So you punch the dough down, and what we want to do is turn this out on the board, and then divvy it up into a few or however many balls that will eventually be rolled out into what do you call it? Into individual portions. But the issue that I always come into is that it's too. So dust your table. It's how to not get too much flour on. We want to kind of pinch it like this, pinch it like this, pinch it like this, move it around, flip it over. We got it into a ball.
Nice.
And then we want to, how many do we? I think we could probably get 6. Well, maybe we could do 4, 2 big ones. Four equal pieces. And then you do the same pinching, flip. Inch, and spin, rotate into a ball. We've got this. 1, 2, 3. Pinch. Too sticky. One more. One. Something along those lines.
Nice.
So now we gotta give those a little bit of time, maybe 10 minutes. We don't have that much time, but 10 minutes, then we'll roll them out. And meanwhile, we're gonna head outside, fire up the griddle. Punch.
You need to put a tea towel on top of that or not?
I'm gonna move them to a board that I can carry outside, and then a tea towel out.
Okay.
Are we talking about alligators and Nazis?
Oh, well, Stephen Miller being interviewed by one of the Fox idiots compared alligator Auschwitz to Section 8 housing that people of color tend to live in urban areas, although Section 8 does cover a whole bunch of other things. And so he said that that alligator Auschwitz was better appointed than Section 8 housing. So that hasn't gotten a wide enough play. I'm sure it's gotten a wide play in hopefully the black press, if not the Latino press. One hopes that that's been happening, needless to say. And of course, this week, the first batch of folks have been sent to Eswatini, that is the former Swaziland, which is one of the small enclaves that was turned into a country in the middle of South Africa. And so they've been trying to send people to third party countries, and fortunately, those folks in Eswatini decided that, well, the hell with that. We're not going to hold on to them. We're just going to send whoever the original citizen. Their homelands are going to send all, whatever it is, 6 or 8 people who they sent all the way. I don't know how much money they spent, but they certainly, flew all these folks way to the other side of the world, essentially. And so the folks in Africa decided they would just not keep any of those folks and send them back to wherever they're from, as opposed to sort of leaving them there. Although about 10 countries have been identified as places where they're going to do these kinds of renditionings, so to speak. And the claim has been, of course, that some people are actually being returned back, but I think we need to have numbers, and those are few and far between. So that's happening. Back on the issue of Jeff Epstein, Trump described it as in a interview on the tarmac, I think in Jersey. Trump said, well, I don't know why people are still, paying attention to this Epstein business. And he described it as sordid, S-O-R-D-I-D, sordid, but boring. Well, clearly he doesn't want to talk about underage sex, sex with underage girls. And I don't think anyone could describe the whole topic as boring. And just after he made this sort of declaration and essentially told the MAGA base to sort of stop whining or lighten up, they called them weaklings. The MAGAs are weaklings. He proceeded to get, I think, 40,000 responses on Truth Social by his own base. So he got sort of ratioed, as they say, by his own base. Now, whether these are bots or actual people, did seem like there are a fair number of folks who were annoyed by this, particularly some more radical versions of MAGA who, hold public office. So that's been happening. But I think sordid but boring is a sort of will be a kind of a theme that we're going to see move on. Of course, Trump got caught, telling his usual lies. It doesn't exist. The Democrats created it, which is totally weirdly impossible. Obama did it, right? Thanks, Obama. All that sort of stuff. All of these things. Epstein killed himself during the Trump administration, the first Trump term. So there's a lot of things going on there that, they had to sort of play it straight. Now in the second regime, now that there are more stooges in charge, less is happening. And of course, they keep getting caught in their own lies, like, Bondi saying she had it on her desk, but then she didn't have it, or blah, 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 all that. Anyway, so that happened. That there was nothing to see there, even though there's a lot to see there. That's just been sitting there. I think Democrats were wise to sort of just let it sit there, particularly in in terms of the election of 2024 and all those matters. Now, while this is all happening, other things are going on. There's just all kinds of other things that have to do with, of course, tariff shakedowns that have to do with Canada and Mexico. There were congressional theatrics going on at the same time, and a lot of them are fairly complicated. And some where we're getting the sense that Trump has changed his mind about dealing with Putin, because Putin has essentially not changed his position. Essentially, he wants to wipe out Ukraine and sort of absorb it back into Russia, similar to what he's done with Belarus. And that's been happening. There's been a little thing about how close, quote unquote, Belarus and Russia are. So there was that. Trump, as a result of this kind of freezing of the positions, it's not so much freezing as it is Putin has never changed his particular position on the ultimate erasure of Ukraine. So Trump actually threatened a 100% tariff on Russia in 50 days. Now, the underlying issue, of course, is that 50 days allows Russians to do whatever the hell they want. So as a result, the Russians have been, and it's a marginal increase when you look at the total number of drones and missiles sent at Ukraine, but there have been more concentrated attacks, just hundreds and hundreds at a much higher level or rate. But the total number of drones and missiles isn't quite that much more than about a year ago. If you sort of look at the actual numbers, the Institute for the Study of War has done a couple of charts that show there's been certainly an increase in drones and not so much an increase in missiles. Everyone is sort of, shepherding their stuff. In some expectation of taking more land. Now, the issue that has been argued is how much territory have the Russians taken. It's somewhere around 20%. It's really not a lot, but it is a significant part of the country. And so there's those issues. And excuse me, the Ukrainians have gotten much better, have gotten more weapons. There's another side story relative to Trump that Trump actually agreed to send more weapons, sort of laundered through NATO, which is what they were doing anyway. So Trump's issue is that America should get paid for its materials, and so there's that. Trump is nothing if but transactional. And then, of course, at the beginning of the week, Trump declared that. And this is because there was a faith breakfast of some kind where Trump declared the Democrats evil. The Democrats are evil, just big E evil. And so that happened at the front end of the week, along with, Patriot missiles and other things that have been going on. There aren't that many Patriot air defense systems. The real issue is getting the missiles to launch. Which is a boon for Raytheon, which is one of the top 5 military contractors. So there's stuff's going on. Meanwhile, in Russia, internet services.
Could we pause for a moment for
carry on.
baking time? Well, we're ready to roll out the pita, the bazlama or pita. But my issue, nervous. This is the first time I'm using this griddle on my fancy schmancy wok burner, which is 180,000 BTUs. So there's almost no low heat in this thing. So we gotta figure out where the sweet spot for keeping the griddle low enough so that we're not burning the hell out of this thing before it even bakes. So
Yes. That's an
in
interesting
terms of
question.
rolling them out, the most rustic way, you can obviously use a roller, but you're going to want to put flour on so it doesn't stick. They tend to be very sticky dough, but the more traditional rustic method is to just use your hands and use a bit of flour and kind of press them into a round, like some. So they're
Joe,
about 1 or 2 centimeters.
Joe, we don't have a view of your hands and
Oh shit!
the
Look at that; it's
board.
already there.
Magic.
Well, let's get another one. Oh, look at that! Okay,
There we go.
okay.
All
So
right.
you just kind of work it out into a round gently, more or less round, about 1 centimeter. Oh, it's not very even. Oh,
Nice.
and then you cook them for about 30 seconds to a minute on the one side, and then flip them over. You should see bubbles. They're a little too. They're not so wet, so we're not going to see too many bubbles. Then we flip them. Now we go back. The other two. And where were we? Russia.
Oh yeah, the internet has gone down a day or 2 days at a time in a variety of Russian cities. So it is a control issue, I suppose, but it also does suggest that there are infrastructure problems. The Russian economy is in fairly big trouble now. If the Ukrainians can hold out for another year, there could be some serious failures in the Russian economy. But other things are at work. The Russians are still managing to sell fuel and gas and other things to the West or to other people, to China, etc. And so that's happening. The Chinese are picking up a lot of ancillary production from the Russians, as are, of course, the North Koreans, who did send a few troops, and there are other troops that are in Ukraine. Laotian engineers, I think, are, and not too many of them, but they're there in Ukraine, as are, they're in Kursk, I think, mainly relative to demining operations or whatever, and similarly or proportionally, there are Colombians fighting on the side of the Ukrainians. So there's little bits and pieces there that are actually kind of interesting. The real issue, of course, is whether folks are going to, how many casualties are going to occur with these sort of things. So we began the week with all kinds of distractions. Trump attacks Rosie O'Donnell, suggesting that he's going to figure out some way to take her citizenship away. And of course, Rosie O'Donnell, who has hated Trump for quite a while, a thorn in his side from the first regime, first term, is sort of amused by the whole business. And, but this was a distraction. But needless to say, Trump decided to declare Rosie O'Donnell a threat to humanity. So that's happening. This at the same time as declaring a Canada is going to get more tariffs because 43 pounds of fentanyl in the entire year of 2024 came over the Canadian border, as opposed to the 3,000 or whatever tons, or the 300 tons of fentanyl that came over the Mexican border. So that's that. Both sides, from a technology point of view, are doing more of the same thing. There's more motorcycles on the Russian side. M113 armored personnel carriers are being more integrated, although there's some whining about the amount of armor that they have, but there are certainly a lot of them all over the place. So that's being added to the Ukrainian arms. This is an interesting time, simply because there's the sides are clearly drawn, and warfare is happening. Aside from the peripheral elements of attempts to suggest that the next place that the Russians will attack is either Estonia for some weird reason. Well, it's because it abuts Russia, and Finland. So there was a little minor blip about that too. So if you've been paying a moderate attention to this, there's all kinds of other strange things going on in the background. It is just strange because once you start seeing things sort of as they are, you can see how discombobulated, as it were, the Trump administration is. So in America, we're just still in the silly season, trying to figure out what the hell to do with sordid but boring facts about Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, the justice system, some people losing their jobs, like Maureen Comey. There's just stuff's happening, very weird and problematic. The side stories are kind of interesting too, because what's it, Emile Beauvais, one of Trump's lawyers, hatchet guy, essentially. They're fronting, and I think that there's some major donors who are behind this issue. I think they love his eyes. He has those sort of Walter Keane eyes. But anyway, Beauvais has a lot of jurists have opposed Beauvais' elevation to the appeals court in Third Circuit, because he essentially has no respect for the law, essentially telling judges to F off, as they say, in a variety of instances, and pretty much, sort of besmirching his own qualifications for the office. And there is a talk that once he achieves a place on the bench, which the GOP has tried to ramrod through the Senate, so there's going to be a vote on this soon. And I just don't know why senators have not, on the Democratic side, have not tried to hold the elevation of Emile Beauvais to the bench, to the appeals court. But that should, I mean, there was a session where all the Democrats walked out of the subcommittee session, and they did it rather noisily. So there's something is going on. One really doesn't quite know what the actual kinds of things are happening there, but it's happening. And needless to say, it's been a busy week. CBS fired Stephen Colbert. They gave him a year to look for a new gig. I assume there's something else going on. I mean, part of it is, of course, there's a Paramount acquisition of CBS that's gonna, change. The suits are changing, so therefore, but only 3 days after Colbert commented on the settlement with CBS and the government about the silliness that Trump was claiming about the editing of Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview, only 3 days after the sort of settlement, where 16 million, essentially a bribe, and Colbert called it a bribe. So 3 days later, Colbert's out of a job. So there's this kind of simultaneity, this concurrence of confluence of things are happening. So that's kind of interesting.
So does he get to come back as the Colbert Report in the non-ironic version this time?
That will be very interesting, but essentially he's just out of a gig. What they're doing is they're sort of, rather than we're firing you from the program, they've decided to cancel or eliminate the Late Show. So the tradition started by David Letterman, for 23 some odd years is gone. And it'll be interesting. I think now that there's sort of a lame duck for Colbert, it'll be interesting to see how wild the Late Show becomes as a result. But I assume there are parallel projects working on that. Colbert could go to, I don't know, NBC or whatever. But simultaneous to this, of course, is the Daily Show also being canned at the same time. at least with Jon Stewart. So other things could happen, though. I mean, remember, we're at this moment about streaming services, et cetera. So that's changing. How's the bread doing, Joe?
I would say it was looking good, but it's not looking that good, to be honest. But they do have some fluff. I was hoping I'd get the bubbles to get the pita the pocket inside, but we're not looking at it. The critical thing is I should have done them one at a time and thinner, but you want to basically be able to cook it fast enough or bake it fast enough so that it doesn't burn like this, but rises and hooks through. So we've got a few spots that are a little underdone, but
Nothing
in
worse than
general,
raw dough in there. Yeah.
But they're looking hefty.
They do look
So we got to
hefty.
get rid of that left-leaning influence in the media. There, so left wing. All of those messaging.
Oh God.
That
Well,
report
yeah.
was much more biting. I've never seen the Late Show with Colbert, but was he able to inject any that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
satire? Was it as biting as the?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
Seems
mean,
like
it's
the Colbert Report could get away with more than
well,
kind of straight comic.
yeah. Well, you had a complete, sort of 30 minutes of being immersed in kind of right wing stuff, whereas to me, the more interesting part, well, it replicates the Late Show and the Tonight Show, et cetera, the format. So essentially, the first half hour of the Late Show had, really good, bits and other stuff, pre-recorded stuff, and a monologue, and that all that was very good. And of course, Colbert, the Late Show, led all the talk shows. I mean, they're not close. It was the leader, so therefore, it wasn't the quality of the programming so much as some people have opined that it is political to take Colbert's soapbox away from him. Now, I expect Colbert to do something else, to do something like perhaps John Oliver's thing on HBO, or there are just other opportunities I think that will be important, and Colbert will probably be able to take his audience with him. Although getting a 5-night-a-week program is fairly important, even though it's a older demographic, whatever. I think there's a significant number of folks who really do. They don't watch the Jimmies; they watch Colbert in the 11:30 time slot, because it's been there since Steve Allen. When you go all the way back, it is that kind of part of one's day to fall asleep in front of late night television programming. So that's been the week of that. Bread looks fine.
I'm just gonna run in to get a plate. Forgot a serving plate.
There we go. Well, needless to say, this has been a busy week. New stuff every day. Some of us will worry about, for example, Fed Chair Powell. I mean, he just is annoyed that Trump can't even remember that Trump cannot remember that Trump appointed Jerome Powell to the Fed. Similarly, there's been a bunch of other things where Trump says, well, it was Biden's fault. Well, it's actually Trump's fault. So, but on the other hand, in his celebrity apprentice sort of form, Trump has already chosen, well, he's got a short list of successors to Jerome Powell. The ever ebullient, Kevin Hassett, who never has a bad thing to say about Trump. He's just the most amazing smiley face that comes on the television. My preference among the different competitors is, was it Kevin Warsh, I think, as I recall his name, who has the most experience. Hassett has the least experience in the Federal Reserve, and Warsh would be actually a perfect kind of person. He's got all the credentials. He's married to a daughter of the Estee Lauder, whatever, and there's all kinds of that stuff that's part of this process. And I don't think they're gonna elevate what's his name, Besson from Treasury. If nothing else, somebody should make a stink about his having worked for George Soros, which no one ever brings up, and I'm bringing it up now. Just somebody should be annoyed by that, not me. I'm still waiting for my check. Anyway, so there's that. So aside from a week of drone swarms, we're ready for the next week. So how's that going there, Joe?
We're all finished.
Okay, what did you brush on there?
So that's olive oil and chopped parsley.
Cool.
So you could use butter, something to make
Excellent.
it.
Well, we're about ready to do the calendar.
Oh, how's that?
Hot. Nice.
Nice and fluffy.
All the way through.
Sourdough bazlama, traditional village bread, Turkish village bread.
Excellent. So we've got to do the calendar. There'll be a night gallery tonight. I don't know if John's there to tell us a little bit about that. Can you tell us about that and Star Trek on Sunday, John?
Certainly, yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Tonight on the Night Gallery, we have an episode called The Boy Who Could Predict Earthquakes.
Ooh.
And it stars Clint Howard, who is Ron Howard's brother. And actually, Rance Howard is briefly in this episode as well. That's their father. Also in this is Michael Constantine, who was in an episode of the original Twilight Zone. And what else do we have in here? Bernie Kopel, who played the doctor on The Love Boat.
Love Boat.
Come aboard. We're expecting you.
Sorry. You brought it up, Joe.
Yeah, I did. On Sunday, we have an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called The Royale.
Oh, and excellent.
You know what?
I actually like it.
So do I. I really like this one, and a lot of people don't.
Lane, did you hear that? I like it.
Whoa.
Breaking
Sean
news.
likes the Star Trek episode?
Breaking news,
What?
Lane.
What the fuck?
But I'll be really interested to see what people think.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting. It's quite interesting. I mean, I think it has, well, from a sci-fi writing point of view, I think it's very sci-fi, narrative.
Oh, definitely.
The way it's constructed. So anyway, that's important. But after that, so that's at 4. But right after that, there will be Lane, if you want to tell us about music on Sunday, and then we'll talk a little bit about Poker Face. I think we're just coming on tonight.
Celebrating the 40th anniversary of Live Aid, which was the 13th of July. We're going to be doing Live Aid, starting with the new BBC stuff on it, and the BBC have kindly also made all of the sets of each artist available separately to watch. So we'll pick and choose various artist sets to watch on Live Aid, and we will discuss Live Aid.
Okie dokie.
Give me your bloody money now.
Susanna,
don't put the fucking number. Give me your fucking money. Sorry. Do apologize.
Family show, Lane. Now I gotta tag this not safe for work.
Bloody hell. Bloody hell.
We did it live on BBC. Live on BBC.
Oh, Lordy.
Well, there will be a weekly Marks as usual at 2:00 on Saturday and Sunday, and later tonight, in about half an hour, we'll get Night Gallery, but right after that will be Poker Face, I hope. Travis, are you there to talk a little bit about this? I guess not. We're hoping we'll be able to see that, and that would be fun. We're about ready to stop. We really will try to do better next week. Let me thank everyone for listening to this, and see you next week.
Take care, all.